it's Hailey, and today I'm going to be doing a writing update for you guys, which is very long overdue, but we are finally here doing it. So I have a lot to talk about in today's writing update. I'm going to try and keep it as concise and quick as possible because I know I could go on for a long time, but in this video I have a little book haul to do for you guys. I'm going to be talking about everything that's been going on with my writing and what I'm hoping for the future since 2019 is here. So I literally have so much to talk about that I don't even know where to begin. So I suppose I'll begin with the fact that I got a new writing chair. I have a terrible back because I'm actually a 90-year-old woman. I am totally not 23 despite what my birth certificate says, but as I was writing I would always be having so many issues with my back hurting because my chair didn't really have enough back support. I thought it would, but I ordered it online, so I didn't get the opportunity to sit in it and test it out before I got it. So that chair is the one that I use for editing videos now, and it works for that. It's not the best, but I just have a pillow there and it's fine. But I got this chair at Staples and it has a lot of back support for me. It's like a nice fluffy chair. I mean, it's not really fluffy, but it's very comfortable and it supports my back. So I can already tell that when I'm writing, it's going to be amazing because I ended up getting this after I finished my book, which I guess I should have started with that. I finished a second book. So if you've watched my other videos, if you follow me on Twitter, if you were following along with NaNoWriMo, then you guys would know that I finished writing Twin Travel Novel, which is the second book that I wrote in 2018. Oh my God, I still cannot believe that. But Book of Sisters is the first book that I wrote. That is a YA fantasy, and you guys don't really know a lot about that, and I kind of let you guys know a little bit more about Twin Travel Novel. But if you don't know, Twin Travel Novel follows the main character M, and she is going on a trip around Europe exploring that's really out of her comfort zone after her twin sister has died. So I wanted to address something, I guess, before I get into things. I'm going to be focusing on Twin Travel Novel. Now, Book of Sisters is going on the back burner, not because I don't love that story. Like, me saying that I love Twin Travel Novel and that's the story I want to focus on going forward doesn't mean that I don't think that Book of Sisters is amazing, and doesn't mean that it's not something that I'm very, very proud of and proud to have written. It just means that I feel like Twin Travel Novel is the story that I want to start with. It is a story entirely of my heart, and basically what I want to get at is that me saying things that are positive about Twin Travel Novel doesn't mean that I don't like Book of Sisters anymore. It just means that Book of Sisters is a fantasy which is very out of my comfort zone. I don't really write fantasy. I've never written it before, so that is something that I think I need to improve more as a writer to make sure that the story is where it needs to be to pitch it to agents and try and get it published. However, Twin Travel Novel is a story that I'm very, very confident in, and it's the story that I thought I was going to write when I sat down and said, okay, I'm finally going to write a book. But it had to simmer for a while, and it was actually while I was in California finishing up Book of Sisters that all the pieces came together for it finally, and I realized what that story needed to be. So when it came time for November in NaNoWriMo, I never sat down with the intention of entirely finishing Twin Travel Novel. I obviously wanted to get some words into it, but my goal was to get 30,000 words done. I figured that was 10,000, no, that doesn't make any sense, 1,000 words a day, and that was totally attainable. And it quickly became apparent that the story was kind of going to write itself. It really wasn't hard for me to write. Obviously, there were points where I was like, what's happening? Particularly in the end, because in the end, I started pumping out really large word counts, but I was also writing very like all over the place. And that's not something I ever have done. I always write chronologically. That's just the way that my brain works. But with this story, I had so many pieces of the ending and I wasn't sure how they were all going to connect. So I just started writing so that I could hit my word count. I started writing all over the place. And then when it came time to pull it all together, I was like, okay, do I still need these plot points here to connect all of this? And it just became very like, how do I, like that one meme of the person with like the equation all over them? That was me. But obviously I did end up pulling it together in the end, and I ended up clocking out at, I can actually get my real word count here. So I finished it at 60,896 words, and I ended up finishing it a week ahead of time. So I finished it on November November 23rd, and that was honestly like the best gift I could have given myself for my birthday, because my birthday was on November 30th, which is the last day of NaNoWriMo. And for those of you who don't know, I feel like I should have explained NaNoWriMo. I am all over the place. NaNoWriMo is National Novel Writing Month, where you try and write 50,000 words in a month, and that's kind of like, it's either a full-length novel or it's a start toward your novel. So I didn't think I would even finish NaNoWriMo, and then the fact that I finished it early and I did end up finishing the entire book was just mind-blowing to me, especially because last year it was such a failure for me. But then I realized this is the story that I want to write. This is the story that was inside of me that I needed to tell, and it just has so many bits and pieces of me in it, and it honestly was such an organic writing experience. I love the character so much. I already have a sequel planned. Like, I just have so much love for this story that this is the one that I want to move forward with. So I actually have it right here because I always like to get my books printed out. I mean, I say always, like I've written like 10, but I got Book of Sisters printed out after I wrote it, and I wanted to get this one done as well. I printed it out at Staples, and it was quite expensive. It wasn't as expensive as Book of Sisters, because Book of Sisters is 100,000 something words, and this one's only 60,000, so it wasn't quite as bad price-wise, but it still was a chunk of money. But I just feel like physically holding my book, it makes it feel like tangible and like something that I actually did. So that's just something that gives me the self-satisfaction that I need to be like, wow, you actually did it. So now that I've done it, the big question is, what happens next? So my goal is to hopefully by February be querying agents. Now I know that might seem quick, but it's also just a personal process for me, and I don't think that the revisions for this story are going to take as long as they did with Book of Sisters, because one, it's a contemporary and there's not a lot of world building that has to happen, and two, I don't think there are as many parts that need a lot of attention. So obviously that doesn't mean I'm not revising it, because yes, I am, and I'm going to do a few rounds of revisions on it starting the beginning of January. The first Friday of January, I think, is what I have on my calendar here. And yes, my calendar still says December because I am pre-filming this video. I will change it to January, obviously, when it is January. But I do have it written down in here, so I want to start my first round of revisions on Friday, the 4th of January, and then I want to be done that first round on the 14th of January. So then I'll take a day in between and I will start round 2, and then I will start round 3, and then by February 1st, I want to be hopefully querying agents. But obviously, if I find the story needs more work and the feedback that I get from people is that it needs more work, I will take more time with it. But this is just my estimate, and it is a challenge that I'm setting myself. So that will be my revisions calendar, and I'm going to look more deeply at it once I actually start reading the thing. But I also have my little planner here, which is Alice in Wonderland theme. It is absolutely like the cutest planner that I've ever had because it has like Alice illustrations in it. It's so cute. But I will have all of that stuff in here as well, and it's quite a pocket-sized planner too, so I'll be able to bring it with me everywhere, and that way I'll be able to stay on top of writing. And now that I have my own car, I can go and write wherever, whenever I want, which is beautiful. So yeah, that's essentially my plan, is to by February be querying agents, so then hopefully by March I might have some responses, but we shall see. That's obviously just a goal that I'm setting myself because I like to set myself goals and personal deadlines, and that's how I do things. So 2019, my big main goal is to finally see if I can get the road to publication going. I don't know for sure if anything is happening. Obviously, that's like my lifelong dream, and I will just be crying endlessly if it does actually happen, but I'm going to try and dedicate this year to things actually happening with it, and then I will go back and get to writing. But right now, I'm going to be focusing on my revisions. It's December right now, and I've taken the entire month off just because, one, December is really busy, and two, I just felt like I needed to take a step back from my story. But I didn't start playing Sims, yay! So I haven't fallen down this rabbit hole of playing Sims where I just can't get out of it at all. So I think when January starts, I will easily be able to get into my revisions, especially because it is a story I am so passionate about, and it's not going to be as difficult for me, and I don't feel like I'm like, what am I doing? Since I've already done it once, I think this process will be a little bit easier since I kind of know how to do it now. But I did want to say thank you guys so much for following along with the journey in 2018, and I can't wait for what's to come in 2019, and I can't wait to keep you guys more updated in 2019. I think it's going to be a lot of fun, and I really have loved taking you along with me, and all of your support just keeps me going and keeps me motivated even when the writing process gets hard. But a little bit more about Twin Travel Novel before I get into the book haul. So I first described the story as the story of the main character M, just like the letter M. That's not actually her name. I'm just keeping her name a secret still. But I described it as a story about her falling in love with herself, which it really is, but there also is way more romance than expected, which seems to be my brand. But I also love the romance. Like, I'm obsessed with it. I have been making aesthetic boards for this story so much just because it's so like real to me. And it's so much easier to find pictures for aesthetic boards for a like real life story, especially with traveling, because there's so many pictures out there. But to do those, I use Pinterest, and my Pinterest is private, so you can't find it. I'm sorry. But eventually, if this story ever comes to actually be a thing, I will make it public. But the story is a good mix between sad and happy, because obviously there is an element of sadness since she's going on this trip after her sister has died, but some time has passed since the death of her sister, and it is a key point to the story, but there's also a lot of happy and fun things going on, so I think it's a good balance there. And really, I'm just dying for feedback for this story, because since I wrote it in such a busy time and I wrote it so quickly, no one has read it, so I have no opinions yet. I'm hoping that when this video goes up, I will have some opinions. Like, I've been getting some from a couple of people, which is awesome. I just love the feedback. That is like what I live for, because obviously to me, I'm like, this is great. So getting other people's feedback is very helpful to me. I just don't have any yet. And with Book of Sisters, I had constant feedback coming from people, because if I wasn't sure about something, I could just send it off. But now everyone is in exams, everyone's preparing for Christmas, so I'm just like, I need someone to read this and tell me what they think. So I'm hoping in January I will have all that feedback so then I can really get into my revisions and everything. But if I don't have it, then I'll probably push back the revision schedule a little bit. But I think that's all I really wanted to say about how things were going with Twin Travel Novel. And like I said, Book of Sisters is kind of on the back burner for now, which doesn't mean that it will never happen. I just want to focus on this story since it is so fresh in my mind and it's really writing itself. So when I get into writing again and actually like composing a story, I think I'm going to go forward with the sequel to this story, which I have a rough idea of what I want it to be. I just would need to outline it a little bit more thoroughly. So now getting into the book haul, which this video is going to be so long and I apologize. But recently there was a sale at my work. We got an extra discount, so I picked up some writing craft books and some writing things that I wanted to share with you guys today. So first I picked up this little thing which is called the Writer's Toolbox, and it's by Jamie Cat Callan, and it has creative games and exercises for inspiring the right side of your brain, W-R-I-T-E. So inside you get your story ideas onto paper, get from the first line to the last, develop characters and plot, and say goodbye to writer's block. So there's like a bunch of stuff in it, but it's kind of like a game. So it has this little like spinner thing. I'm not fully sure how to use it yet because I haven't delved into it, but you have like a little book that shows you what you're supposed to do and everything. And then there are cards here. And then, like I said, there's this little spinner thing right here. There's actually a few of them. So it's kind of like writing prompts and stuff like that. And I think that it looks really cool and I am excited to try it out, and I'll let you know more about it when I actually do. Next is Troubleshooting Your Novel, Essential Techniques for Identifying and Solving Manuscript Problems, which is by Stephen James. So I'm actually currently reading this and I'm hoping to be done it by the time January starts. So hopefully by the time you see this video, I will be done with this one. But I saw this one and I figured it would be something good to pick up for going into revision, so then I can kind of have an idea of what I want to look for, the things that I need to be paying attention to as I read my manuscript. So I'm not very far into it at all right now, and so far I'm not quite sure how I'm enjoying it, but hopefully it will improve because really I'm like 10 pages into it. Next I have Creative Visualization for Writers, which is by Nina Amir, and it is an interactive guide for bringing your book ideas and your writing career to life. So this is kind of like another game thing, so there's a lot of like little prompts in here. It reminds me of like the old workbooks that I would do in school, but this does seem like something that I feel like might help me out. I'll have to take a bit of a closer look at it, but I basically went to the bargain section at work and I was like, what do we have right now? And I found quite a few things that I think could actually help me, but this is one of the ones that I wasn't entirely sure about. So I'll take a closer look and see. Like, it talks about goals and vision and creativity and self-exploration. So it's really about forming yourself as a writer, and I think building confidence as a writer, which is definitely going to be helpful. So I have a few more craft books here, and then I actually have some little inspiration books that I got. So next we have Writer to Writer From Think to Ink, which is by Gail Carson Levine, or Levine, I'm not really sure. And then I also have Writing Magic, which is by the same author. So both of these are by the author of Ella Enchanted, and they have the cutest covers, which I'm not gonna lie, it definitely made me want to read it. But this one is a companion to this one, but this is just talking about making magic with your writing, and it's by a master of fairy tales, so obviously that is an authority on that. And I think that the writing exercises in here could be really helpful because obviously she knows what she's talking about. She's written an amazing book, and actually a few amazing books. I haven't actually actually read them yet, but from what I've heard, they're amazing, and I did pick up the one to read, so I will get to it soon. But this is the same idea, so I think both of these are going to be very helpful. Next, I have Fierce on the Page, Become the Writer You Were Meant to Be and Succeed on Your Own Terms, which is by Sage Cohen. So I think this is kind of the same idea as the other one, the workbook that I showed you, but this doesn't really have little pages where you can fill in stuff in it. It just is kind of a little bit of motivation for writing and going at the different things that could happen with your writing. Like it says here, fall in love with a problem, it's easier with a buddy, get happy first, things like that. So this is once again one that I'm going to have to take a gander through and see if it is what I thought it was going to be. Next, I have The Writer's Guide to Character Traits by Linda N. Edelstein, and this is really a reference book of just different character traits and different characters that I could have and what they might be like. So like there's a white collar criminal and there's different descriptions of what they might be like. There's just all sorts of things going on in here that I think would be pretty helpful. Next is Fire Up Your Writing Brain by Susan Reynolds, and this is how to use proven neuroscience to become a more creative, productive, and successful writer. So that sounded very intriguing to me because I feel like this is going to be kind of a guide on activating that side of your brain, which I don't think there's actually the sides of your brain. I think that was just a myth. I don't know if I'm just talking crazy right now, but basically it's going to be about getting into the mindset of writing and creativity, which is going to be very helpful because I can be very easily distracted. And finally is The Anatomy of a Story, 22 Steps to Becoming a Master Storyteller, which is by John Truby. And this one I always see Kat from Katie Tastic talking about, so I definitely have been intrigued by it, and she seems to swear by this book, and it talks about movies, so I don't know how I feel about that, but it does look like it analyzes movies, and that would definitely be helpful because that's obviously a form of storytelling. So I think this will be interesting, and I'm interested to see why Kat likes it so much. So the final things I got are just some more bargain books here. So they're kind of reference things. I have 30-second religion, 30-second mythology, and 30-second philosophies. So I felt like these would be helpful things to educate myself and then bring it forward in my writing. That's part of why I really like reading fairy tales as writing inspiration. And I didn't want something that went like super into depth. I wanted something that just kind of touched on the surface so then I can research more of what I'm interested in. And I think that these are going to be awesome for that because it only takes 30 seconds to read about them. So I'll have that introduction, and then anything I want to look more into, I can. So now that my writing desk is destroyed, that is all for today's writing update. I hope you guys enjoyed. I will be doing one hopefully soon in the future. This one was like way long overdue, but right when I finished Twin Travel Novel, which I don't think I mentioned, but it has a title, and I titled it before I wrote it, but I'm not going to tell you the title because I'm not 100% sure it's going to be the title because it's really different from Book of Sisters, which was very difficult for me to title, and I still don't really have a title for it. This one, there's like multiple titles that would work, but anyways, right when I finished it, it was Bookmas, so I never got the chance to give you guys an update, but now here we are. So thank you guys so much for watching today's video, and thank you once again for keeping up with my writing. If you wanted to keep up with more, then don't forget to click that subscribe button and then click that bell icon so you'll be notified whenever I post. I post new videos every Wednesday and Friday. You can also follow me on all of my social media. That is a good place to keep up with, especially writing updates and my aesthetic boards and all of that stuff. So thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye!